Hey there, thanks for tuning in. Welcome back, Fernando, to continue our series on Sect in Vedic Astrology. And so far, this series has been very interesting, and it is turning out to be even more interesting with the amount of research that you have put in. And I also doing a little bit of stuff related to Sect. It is almost like I'm kind of implementing Sect in Vedic Astrology, or in each and every analysis of mine, I'm kind of implementing Sect, and things are turning out to be very explicitly kind of it is working. So something that was entirely theoretical and hypothetical at one point of time is slowly turning into an actual phenomenon, and I hope things will turn furthermore into an actual phenomenon. But I think it's still a long way. And yeah, welcome back. Thanks so much.
And thanks, Ashwin. Nice to see you. Nice to see you once again, and hello to all your viewers. And to add to what you were saying, something that initially would look very foreign, very alien to Vedic astrology, turns out that it can fit very well.
Yes.
And we're gonna continue the analysis here, and in the conclusion, we're gonna be talking about the findings. So, should I share my screen to start?
Sure.
Okie dokie. So let's do this. Okay, let's go back here. So today we're going to be discussing the final two lagnas that have Yoga Karka planets in them, which are obviously the Shani lagnas, Capricorn and Aquarius, or Makara and Kumbha. So let me just, here we go, Capricorn lagna. So we first start with Capricorn. And for Capricorn, for just to all your viewers, for those who haven't seen the first three videos, please see them, because I'm going to do this analysis in a much faster way than the first and the second one, because I don't want to repeat myself. But what we're going to see for Capricorn is that we're going to look at the strongest Trishadaya Lord and the Yoga Karka planets. For Capricorn Lagna, the strongest Trishadaya is Mars, since he rules the 11th and the 4th. And the Yoga Karka is obviously Venus. And as we know, Venus is the Yoga Karka for Saturn, and Saturn is the Yoga Karka for Venus. And we discussed the Venus Lagnas in the second video. And this is why sometimes a lot of people in Vedic astrology say that Saturn and Venus are, best buddies, right? And this is why we understand that, young girls love older men, and older men love younger girls. Fresh meat loves experience, and experience loves fresh meat. And, I say that all the time, and it's astrology confirms it. So from the get-go, we obviously know that Venus is a night sect planet. So in theory, as it says here, Venus will do better in night births by producing more active Raya Yogas than during day births, where she will produce less active Raya Yogas. However, during the night, Saturn will become a more disruptive Lagna Lord. And we have to remember, we're taking into consideration both the Yoga Karka, the 11th Lord, and the Lagna Lord, since the predisposition of the Lagna Lord is very important to qualify if the Jataka will fully enjoy that greatness he might get from the Yoga Karka, right? Because one might get greatness, but one might not, enjoy it fully, as we discussed previously. And Saturn Lagna is very interesting, because this is the only set of Lagnas that have a natural benefic Yoga Karka planet, which is Venus, right? Venus is a natural benefic. However, if you read the mythology, Venus, is kind of, I don't want to say Venus is the Daitya Guru. So even though he's a benefic, he has some things that are tricky, to say the least. So let's start first with the night birth. Venus here, as you've said, is the 5th and 10th Lord Yoga Karka, while Mars is the 11th, once again. So let's first see the function of the 11th Lord. As we can see, functional maleficence of Mars as the 11th Lord is going to be strong. So in theory, during the night, there will be less disruptive Martian inclinations toward achieving goals and towards affairs of the heart that will detract the native from greatness. During the night, there will be, the energy of Mars is going to be strong. So we are going to be detracted by, you know, pursues of long-term goals, of wishes that are not going to be as disruptive as otherwise would be during a day birth. And once again, we're seeing something that we've seen in other lagnas, is that tug of war, right? The idea that the 11th Lord is the same sect as the Yogacarca, so there's going to be a constant tug of war between, you know, what you want to do to achieve greatness and what you want to do that detracts you from greatness. So in a night birth, you know, as 11th Lord here, you know, we're probably going to have the capacity to aggressively achieve one's long-term goals, 11th house, and achieve recognition in a less disruptive way than usual. That will detract one from greatness. That will be like forceful search for wishes and aspirations, right? We're going to be fighting, and we're going to be, you know, doing our thing, taking into consideration other people, you know, more than during a day birth, and we're going to achieve what we want. But through that achievement, we're probably not going to achieve the greatness that Venus would give us to us, which is something we're going to be discussing in the conclusion video. You know, the idea of free will and destiny, and how this might be seen through this. But, you know, that's conjecture that we're going to be discussing later on. As 4th Lord, capacity to use one's emotions and upbringing to achieve greatness in a less disruptive way than usual, that will detract one from greatness. That will be fight for one's country, for one's emotions in an intelligent way, you know, in a Martian intelligent way, obviously. That would be like immediate logic. And, you know, we're not going to step over other people with this Martian inclination. The second point, Lagna Lord status, Saturn is weak because it's a night birth. So at the same time during a night birth, Saturnine topics inherent to the person will impede the Jataka's body from enjoying greatness to the fullest, which would be the 1st and 2nd Lord. And, you know, Saturn Lagnas are very interesting because it's the only arrangement where the Lagna Lord controls the 12th, which we're going to see in Aquarius. But here, in the 1st and the 2nd, inability to appreciate one's appearance and body, melancholy, laziness, fear, that will impede the Jataka from enjoying greatness to the fullest. There can also be problems with finances, responsibilities, and family related to this because of the 2nd house. So we're going to see that during the day birth. Once again, we see this dichotomy of, you know, the 11th and the Yogacarca are the same sect, but the Lagna Lord belongs to another sect. So, you know, we will never see, as I've said during the first video, we will never see a perfect Raya Yoga combination between you know, Lagna, Raya, Yogacarca, and 11th Lord. So at the same time, and finally for the night birth here for Capricorn, during night birth, Yogacarca Venus will be more active on creating greatness to the person through creativity, hard work, and distinction. 5th Lord Venus, capacity to use one's mind and creativity to achieve greatness in a very beautiful and artistic way. That will be, you know, like artistic capability, beautiful mind. And, you know, I always put wife because I've seen this. I've seen when Venus plays an important role for Saturn Lagnas, you see it.
Yeah.
And you see it whenever Venus has an important role in a Lagna, the planet might take the form of the wife. So it's not probably that you're going to have artistic capability or a beautiful mind. Maybe your wife will, and that will affect you. Obviously, with the 5th house, we can extrapolate that to children. In the 10th, Lord Venus, capacity to triumph in life through work and distinction, diplomacy in the workplace, acclamation, and wife. And, you know, this is very interesting because I've seen this. I've seen this happening. And I've also seen it in Aquarius Lagna where Venus will be the 9th, but it's in the 10th. How people achieve greatness or create jobs through their wives, right? Through their wives' money, through their wives' influences, and they achieve greatness, you know. And especially when you have a Yogacarca like Venus, right? And, you know, this is very important many times for Saturn Lagnas. That achievement or Raya Yoga is going to be achieved through the partner. You know, it's going to be achieved through Venusian. Why? Because Venus is Yogacarca, Venus is wife for a man. You know, for a woman, you see other significators for partnership. Obviously, traditionally Jupiter. Obviously, you could also use Venus. And from a sexual perspective, you see Mars. So, you know, women are more complicated than men. You know, we want to have a partner to have pleasure, to have a wife that will inevitably bring children and bring somebody who helps us in the house. But a woman, you know, it's more complicated. It might be for sex. It might be for money. It might be for stability. Traditionally, it's the idea of Jupiter, right? You're you're growing with your partner, you're growing through that union, right? And obviously the Venusian aspects are also very present, especially during the modern times. But we have to take that into consideration. And during night birth, this is going to be strong. Okay, so now we're going to see the day birth. Once again, the same arrangement, but the values are inverted. Now Mars is a weak Trishadaya Lord. So what we're going to see is more or less the same capacity to achieve our goals, but in a more disruptive way. So we are going to aggressively, in theory, during the day birth, there will be a more disruptive Martian inclination towards achieving goals and towards affairs of the heart that will detract the native from greatness. So we're going to have a capacity to aggressively achieve one's long-term goals and achieve recognition in a more disruptive way that will detract one from greatness. Forceful search for wishes and aspirations, stepping over others. And as a fourth lord is the same thing, stepping over others. It's going to be very disruptive. And the negative qualities of the malefic planet are going to come forth, and they're going to be, more cumbersome. And in the others, the 11th lord wasn't necessarily a malefic planet. So you're going to see that you're going to be detract from greatness, and you're probably going to cause trouble to other people and probably to yourself too, right? And we can see that also with the friction that goes on between Mars being the 11th and Saturn being the Lagna lord. However, during a day birth, Saturn is strong. And as a first and second lord, we're going to have the opposite as the last case. We have the ability to appreciate one's appearance and bodies, discipline, patience, hard-earned results will allow the Jataka in enjoying greatness to the fullest. Finances, responsibilities, and families can also help with this because it's the second lord also. And during the day, Yogakarka Venus is going to be weak. So what we're going to have is that she's going to be less active in producing Raj Yoga. You see this dichotomy once again. The 11th lord is strong and the Yogakarka is strong during the night, while the Lagna lord is weak. And then during the day, the Lagna lord is strong, but the Yogakarka and the Trishadaya lord are weak. Okay? So we're going to have a bland capacity to use one's mind and creativity to achieve greatness in a very beautiful and artistic way. Artistic capability, beautiful mind, wife that is not effective in achieving greatness. And as a 10th lord, bland capacity to triumph in life, to work on distinction, diplomacy in the workplace, acclamation, wife that is not effective in achieving greatness. And if the first case, the wife helped to achieve greatness, probably in the second case, the wife could do more, or the wife is not necessarily, that integral in producing that greatness, or maybe is some sort of, obstacle, or, or maybe it's just too soft, or maybe we just don't get what we need because we're too soft and too good and too benefic in these terms, right? Because during the night, Venus is a benefic that is more active, and during the night is a benefic that's less active. So during the day, we're probably achieve greatness. I'm sorry?
No, during the day, yes.
During the day, I'm sorry. During the day, she's going to be weaker. So during the night, it will probably be a good person, but it will be effective. And during the day, we're probably going to be a good person, but that's not going to be an effective, as effective as during the night. So you see, we see that dichotomy going on. So the conclusions for the Capricorn Lagna would be, although it is better to be born during the night, for Yogakarka Venus, Mars is strongest Trishadaya, will also be strong in preventing greatness in a less disruptive way. There will be a big tug of war, like we've seen before in other Lagnas between both. Venus is better in association with Mercury and obviously Saturn, because those are benefic, functional benefics in the Lagna. Also, Saturn during the day can produce difficulties for the Jataka in enjoying greatness. So we now move to the Aquarius Lagna, which is the second one, which is the only Lagna that, the Lagna lord is both the first and the 12th.
Yeah.
And, Aquarius is, the ugly duckling. Aquarius is weird, but it's fabulous at the same time. There are a lot of qualities in Aquarius that are very interesting. Aquarius is the sign, in my opinion, that is less understood by the classics. We kind of don't see like a perfect picture of Aquarius. you usually get a more clear-cut vision of all the signs except Aquarius. Aquarius is a weird sign, you know. It has a lot of things, you know, that contradict themselves. Even in the modern perspective, the descriptions are not that enjoyable. But I think that has to do with this fact that it's both the 12th and the first lord. But the idea of Aquarius is, you know, that you fuse with the collective and you work together towards the collective in principle, right? And obviously the Saturnian qualities from a traditional point of view have to be taken into consideration. And for Aquarius Lagna here, you know, Jupiter is going to be the 11th lord. Once again, we've seen that before, specifically with Taurus Lagna. And we've seen that also with Taurus Lagna. And Venus is going to be Yoga Karka once again. So once again, like in Capricorn, in theory, during the night, Venus is going to be a more active natural benefic to produce Raja Yogas. But Saturn is going to be weak because of a different sect. So once again, Jupiter is going to be the 11th lord, and during the night, he's going to be weak. And in theory, during the night, there will be less active Jupiterian inclinations towards achieving long-term goals of different sorts, and wishes will detract the native from greatness. 11th lord, blunt capacity to gracefully and spiritually achieve one's long-term goals. Economical factors can also be included here because it's Jupiter. And all this will detract the native from greatness. You know, bland search for recognition, awards, everything that has to do with the 11th. And second lord Jupiter, bland capacity to pursue finances, meet responsibilities, and have a family that will detract one from greatness. Bland infatuation with money and family. Very simple. We've seen more or less those effects before. Lagna lord Saturn is going to be weak. So we're going to see that it's going to be the 1st and the 12th. And it's basically the inability to appreciate one's appearances and body, melancholy, laziness, fear, that will impede the Jataka from enjoying greatness to the fullest. But since it's also the 12th, there can also be problems with expenditure and psychological aspects and spiritual aspects that will probably potentially, you know, increase this maleficence, this malady in a way. And now we go to Yoga Karka Venus. Once again, this is very interesting because this is the only Lagna where the 11th and the Yoga Karka are both natural benefics. And it's the only Lagna in this study that I've found that the 11th lord for the first time is not part of the same sect as the Yoga Karka planet, which is very interesting. So you have both at the same time. And this probably is the Lagna where this is the closest Lagna we're going to get to a perfect Raja Yoga combination. However, since the Lagna lord is still not of the same, because what we want is that the Lagna lord and the Yoga Karka planet would be from the same sect.
And I think I can immediately think of an example where if you look at Abraham Lincoln's horoscope, there is a perfect Raja Yoga that's formed in the second house, sidereal second house of Pisces, where you will have Venus and Jupiter making a very close conjunction.
Exalted, yeah.
Venus is exalted and Jupiter is in its own domicile. And the Lagna Lord status of Saturn in terms of being both the 1st and 12th Lord, I think it kind of puts the natives in a very peculiar situation where the native is kind of a hurdle to himself and he need not find anyone else, especially because of the lordship, the 12th lordship that Saturn holds. It kind of pushes the native to go ahead. And since Saturn is the Lagna Lord or the rising Lord, Saturn forms limitations around itself and it kind of sets some unforeseen boundaries at very unforeseen scenarios and stuff. So there is a lot of back and forth things that these people are going around, even though they are revolutionary and outgoing. With third lord being Mars, they're kind of aggressive and also outgoing, but still they have a certain limit to where they need to go and where they don't need to go. So, and I think the sect of the entire chart makes it even more interesting in terms of how Saturn works to the Aquarius ascendants. With all the other peculiarities, I think this is one more peculiarity that you can add to the Aquarius rising natives.
Yeah, and just by you saying that, it came to mind the idea of Taurus Lagna, where
Yeah,
we kind of have that also with
exactly. Venus being sixth lord.
yeah, and obviously we have that with Scorpio also, but it's much more stronger with Taurus Lagna because it's a benefic, and we kind of see that where the person might be its own enemy,
Yeah,
its own worst enemy. Of course, an Aquarius Lagna will be more psychological,
yeah,
probably more
that's what.
spiritual.
Yeah, the karma related factor that kind of plays in the person's mind, because Saturn is kind of very karmic planet in nature, and I think that kind of manifestation will kind of follow the native throughout his life based upon the sect, especially if Saturn is placed in its own sect. And let's not forget, from Hellenistic point of view, Saturn rejoices in the 12th house. So there is a lot of uh, coinciding factors that kind of push the Aquarian natives to stop themselves
Yeah.
from a psychological point of view. Exactly,
and,
that's what.
and that probably helps them, specifically if you would be born with an Aquarius Lagna and your Lagna Lord is in Capricorn.
Yeah,
So probably that's not gonna be as bad as other Lagnas, but it's gonna be difficult. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah,
probably the person's gonna have the capacity to deal with that, since
sure.
obviously it would be in good dignity in principle, but. Yeah, you're totally right, and we kind of seen with the Venus example I gave the relationship between both planets and how they, mesh very well. So yeah, we're moving on to the Yogacarca Venus, where it's going to be strong as fourth and ninth lord, and as a fourth lord, it's going to have the capacity to use emotions and upbringing to achieve greatness in a very beautiful way. Big card, loving emotions, relaxation from upbringing. And as a ninth lord, Venus capacity to use one's philosophical outlook on life in a very diplomatic, artistic way, teach beautiful things, generosity and charity. And once again, the wife is going to be present here specifically because it's the ninth, which is marriage, the ashram of marriage. And it's very interesting because for the first time, the Yogacarca is stronger than the 11th lord. It's not of the same sect. So I would say that for an Aquarius Lagna that was born during the night, they have a better capacity to achieve greatness without any significant obstacles based on the study of sect and Yogacarcas, right? Because we're not taking into consideration rejoicing factors of sect, we're not taking
Yeah,
into consideration dignity, we're not taking into consideration a lot of other factors that further complicate the situation, but in principle, and we're going to be discussing that in the conclusion. So now we move on to day births. And by the way, if I'm mistaking day and night for the viewers, just remember that usually in astrological videos we confuse signs with signs, planets with planets. Planet with signs, signs with planets, and I may have confused through these videos day with night. So I'm sorry for that. But, try to keep up. Sorry. So we start here with the day birth. So here Jupiter is going to be strong. So instead of a bland capacity to, did I write that here? Yes. So instead of a bland capacity to go towards goals, we're going to have now a strong capacity to gracefully and spiritually achieve one's long-term goals that will detract one from greatness, strong search for recognition and award. So it's going to be more stronger now, and at the same time, the Yogacarca is going to be weaker. So as a second lord, the same thing will go for finances, family, and responsibilities. The Lagna lord is going to be strong. I'm sorry. So that means that we're going to have the ability to appreciate one's appearance, body, discipline, patience, and hard-earned results will allow the Yadaga to enjoy greatness to the fullest. And expenditure and psychology will help this. You probably will spend money on, fixing your teeth to look good. You're probably going to spend money on a gym to fix your body. You're probably going to spend money on an astrologer to tell you all these wonderful things about Sect and Yogacarcas, But however, the Yogacarca is going to be weak in principle. Just as in Capricorn, we're probably going to be good with the Venus, but it's not going to be efficient. Bland capacity to use one's emotions and upbringing to achieve greatness in a very beautiful way. Big heart, loving emotions, relaxation from upbringing, but that is inefficient. The same as bless you. bland capacity to use one's philosophical outlook on life in a very diplomatic and artistic way, teach beautiful things, generosity and charity that is inefficient. And once again, the wife can also be part of this equation as it did for Capricorn. For the conclusion for the Aquarius Lagna, in theory, and this is very interesting, it is better to be born during the night for the Yogacarca Venus, since the 11th Lord Jupiter will pertain to the opposite sect of light and of light. And this is something that we only see in Aquarius Lagna, which is very interesting. This is the only Yogacarca Lagna where this unequivocally happens, as I just mentioned. Also, Saturn during the day can produce difficulties for the Jataka to enjoy greatness. It is also the only Lagna where the Yogacarca planet and the 11th Lord are both natural benefic. Venus will do very well in association with Mercury. So if you have an Aquarius Lagna and you were born during the night, go for greatness. That's what I would recommend. Specifically, if you have Venus in the second house, as Abraham Lincoln did. And let me add that to that you know, his wife was very important in his political career. His wife was something very important to his life, and we see that. And we're going to see that with Saturn Lagnas, you know, and we could also extrapolate that to Venus Lagnas, not necessarily, although sometimes Saturn is the husband, but I mean, if you have a Venus Lagna and you marry a much older partner, you know, a much older husband, probably that could be the same, right? We would have to analyze female chart stars, Libra Lagna, where they married an older man, you know, a much older man. We're not saying like 10 years. We're saying somebody who's like 25 or 30 years older than the person. Somebody marries at 20, somebody who's 60, something like that. And how that person might have, you know, helped that person to achieve greatness, just as the same way as Saturn Lagnas achieve greatness through their wives. So that's an interesting topic we could explore further on. So conclusion for both Saturn Lagnas, you know, in both of these Lagnas right here, we see that Venus will do better during the night. However, Saturn, not sharing the same sect, will suffer at the same during the night, which will go for both and which will probably go for all Lagnas. Also, as we've seen, there are probably the most dissimilar Lagna of the three. This pair of Lagnas are the most dissimilar Lagnas of the three groups, since the planets involved in the Raj Yoga are very different in terms of how they are divided through houses, and the idea of Venus and Jupiter being the only natural benefics that are Yogacarca and 11th Lord at the same time. Mars and Venus on the one hand, I'm sorry, and Venus and Jupiter in the other. The special case here lies in the fact that Aquarius is the only Lagna where Yogacarca planet and the 11th are both natural benefics and clearly different sects. And also we see that, you know, Mars is 11th Lord. And if I'm not mistaken, right here, which we're going to be discussing in the next video, it's the only Lagna also where it's a natural malefic as the 11th Lord for Capricorn Lagna. So you start seeing that the Saturn Lagnas are very different from the other ones. You know, we could also say the same for the luminaries, since they don't apply to sect. And we could also say that about Venus also, since Taurus is 6th and 1st, and you know, and Libra it's 1 and 8. So we see that the three sets of two Lagnas are very different. So, but we're going to be discussing that on the next video. So yeah, that's more or less what we have with Saturn. And in the next video, we're going to bring all that information together, and we're going to make some conclusions about this little study that I've made. And you know, I hope people enjoy it. If people have questions, please write them down. I know that sometimes I'm not very articulate in the things I say, and I might confuse day with night and night with day. But, you know, I'm sorry.
I think as it is, as people, I think people have watched you and me together in a lot of videos now. So I think the flow is kind of, it is kind of used to those who are watching and those who will be watching in future as well. So
hopefully
a little bit of glitches here and there, like day as night or night as day, I think people would have known the concept before watching all these videos. So I think they can make out what you're actually saying, even if it is a small glitch or something. So there is no problem as it is. I think we have done as it is, you have done a very good job in terms of researching the working of sect based upon the Vedic concepts of functional benefics and malefics. Yeah, I think we are just moving ahead to our conclusion video in the next episode, and yeah, I think it's done.
Yeah, it's done. Take care.